All right, guys, welcome to episode 3. As always, I really do appreciate you guys following along, and thanks for all the positive support and feedback. So let's dive into this one. So I am back to 100% health. It feels really good to be back in the gym. I got myself back in last week, and last week was just all about getting myself reacclimated to my training, regaining strength, regaining some stamina, and of course regaining some lost fullness. When I got sick, lost my appetite, and basically from not training and not eating, my physique kind of took a little bit of a nosedive. But it quickly came back. It literally just took a week to kind of regain a lot of what I lost. So this week has been particularly motivating just because on Monday I dive back into my prep or dive back into a deficit. And it feels good to be hungry again. Like, hunger levels kind of crept up, as the week went on. Eating, on my eating low day macros, basically eating about 2,000 calories. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of food for a guy my size, and I'm just not a very active person throughout the day. I basically sit at my desk coaching bodybuilders, so I'm not really active, so I don't really require a whole lot of food. So basically, my story is I have to eat, a little bit on the lower side, and I have to do, a good fair amount of cardio, which I started doing again this week. I got in about 3 sessions this week. 30 minutes in the morning, basically after a cup of coffee, get on my recumbent bike, pedal for about 30 minutes. Basically pretty casual, not over the top slow, but not over the top fast, just kind of cruising, just expending some calories. And it feels good to move. Like, it just feels good to basically get on the bike and pedal. I'll sit there and I'll do social media. Sometimes I'll basically listen to some podcasts, things like that. So I kind of, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm basically, expending some calories and also kind of expanding my knowledge, getting my brain to be maybe a little bit smarter with each cardio session. So I got 3 of those sessions in. It felt good to kind of move, get the blood flowing. And then my training, I got in thus far 2 really good training sessions on Monday and Tuesday. Kind of picked the volume up a little bit from last week, because last week I was just kind of getting myself reacclimated. So this week I picked things up a little bit. So the volume crept up quite a bit. The intensity level crept up quite a bit. So some of my sets I was pushing, closer to failure. Not early on though, like, it's usually generally like, the last set or 2 of an exercise where I'll push, a little bit harder, maybe getting closer to 1 rep in reserve. And with some of my movements getting like 0 reps in reserve, like going to failure. But yeah, because of those hard workouts though, I definitely felt it. So that's the reason why thus far, I've only gotten 2 sessions in. I'm going to get a session in after I'm done making this audio. So this week looks like it's going to be just 3 days this week where I got some training in. And that's the thing with my training blocks. I auto-regulate my training quite a bit. Like, when I set my training blocks up, there's structure, but I allow plenty of flexibility within that structure. So training frequency, anywhere between 3 to 5 days a week is kind of my norm. Days where, I have good, or I should say weeks where I have good energy, really good sleep, I'm just feeling really good in general, like, not that many body aches, things like that. Then, I tend to push, the frequency up a little bit. And same thing with the volume, like, the sets per exercise. I generally have a range. And again, if I'm feeling really good, I'll push volume up. But those weeks where the days where maybe I don't feel as good, maybe sleep isn't as good, just overall just kind of maybe feeling a little bit more beat up, then I tend to gravitate towards less training days in a week, as well as maybe less volume within my sessions. So I auto-regulate basically based on what I'm experiencing. I also the way I set up those training blocks, I'll look at past history, how things we're going, with the previous training block, what worked well, what didn't work well, and that helps me to basically set up the structure for the current block. And then, I just use my experience to auto-regulate the volume, to auto-regulate the intensity, to auto-regulate the frequency. And someone like myself who's been training for 33 years, it would be very unwise for me to just kind of just follow something very blindly and really rigid. Like, I want to make sure that I'm allowing myself to utilize my experience to make those in the moment decisions that can really help to sustain my progress and to keep me as healthy as possible. Now, obviously, someone who is, let's say, maybe not as experienced, maybe a beginner, intermediate, they don't have as many years under their belt, so they don't have that experience. So it's kind of harder for them to assess and to adjust, the correct way. So they have to rely on outside and external sources to help guide them. So I'm kind of like on the opposite side of the spectrum. Like, I really utilize and rely heavily on my experience to help guide me. And not to say that I don't rely on external sources like research science, because I do. If I can implement and apply it and it goes well, great. But I'm not fearful to basically kind of do what I need to do, even if it's considered, let's say, quote unquote, not optimal. If I can make things practical, it's safe, I enjoy it, and I could sustain it, even if let's say it's a little bit less optimal on paper, eventually over the long haul it's going to be optimal because I'm able to sustain my progress. So again, as far as training, again, like, I rely heavily on auto-regulation, and again, it's because of the experience level that I have. So in a nutshell, yeah, training has been going just really, really good this week. RDLs, those been going really well, back up to 4 plates. So that's good. And my priority is really like, I definitely want to make sure that I'm able to progress my loads as much as possible. Now, I will say the priority, even the priority is always form. Like, I always try to increase loads when I can, but not at the sake of compromising my form. So anytime my form breaks down just a little bit, and the way I kind of gauge it is, I kind of have a form rating. So a 10 out of 10 is like just perfect form. Like, there's no momentum, there's no body English. It's just, I'm moving the weight from point A to point B, just as flawless and pristine as possible. So 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, maybe there's just a little momentum involved, maybe just a touch leverage changes, but it's still like pretty damn close to perfect. I'm good with that. But anything below that, like if I start to use a lot of momentum, or I'm changing, let's say on a row, my torso gets really upright, like I'm just, trying to cheat the movement in a sense by changing my body leverage, then that's kind of like an 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And if I'm looking, like if my form looks like that, I don't even attempt to increase the load. If anything, I'm lowering the load down to improve my form rating, because if I improve my form rating, I'm becoming more and more efficient, and I'm ensuring that I'm keeping the risk for injury on the lower side of things. So that's kind of my my priority is, like, I always want to try to of course be progressive and overload when I can, but form never at the sake of sacrificing my form. And same thing with kind of the volume. Like for example, this week, early in the week, like I said, I had some killer workouts and I pushed volume up a little bit on my neutral grip pull downs. I actually pushed the volume up to 7 sets, and it was definitely probably a little too much. Like on Wednesday, Thursday, I took 2 days off from training just because I was extremely sore. And it was like, okay, my next training session involved like RDLs, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do RDLs right now. I'm just too tore up from those pull downs. Like my lats and all that were just so beat up. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to hold on to the bar with an RDL. It's just gonna make matters worse. So I took a couple days off, but the soreness was just like too much. Like I had no business probably doing 7 sets, but because of past training blocks, I've done 7 sets on occasion and I've done okay with it. But after this last session, it was just too much. So I think I'm going to have to lower down the range as far as the sets for that movement to probably more like 3 to 5. I think, if I would have probably kept it at 5, I probably would have recovered okay. So moving forward, I now know, okay, 3 to 7 is not no longer a sweet spot. The 3 to 5 is probably makes a little bit more sense. And also, got to factor in that I'm now in a deficit again, so I probably should have known better. But even with the amount of experience I have, even though I'm a veteran, I'm still learning as I go, because you always have to basically assess and stay aware of what you're actually experiencing, and you make good judgment calls moving forward. The thing is, more is not always better. Like if I said, okay, I'm going to do 7 sets again, it's probably just going to beat me up that much more, and it's going to put me in a greater hole, as far as fatigue and all that. So, and again, being in a deficit, with food being on the lower side, it's just not. It's just the environment I'm in it's not a good one to try to support such a great demand. So if I lower the volume down a little bit, I think I'll probably have a little bit more balance between performance and recovery, which recovery, in my opinion, is huge. So rest and recovery, in my opinion, is just as important, as the training itself. So that's kind of just allowing you guys to kind of get inside my head a little bit when it comes to maybe the way I tend to look at things and auto-regulate some things. But yeah, overall, it just feels, again, really good to, get myself back into the gym last week, and then this week being, productive, like actually taking a step forward towards where I want to go, like towards my goals. Of course, I want to get on stage and I want to get shredded. So this week was like, okay, getting back into the deficit and, going for fat loss. And it was a successful week. Started the week out right around 191 pounds. And now at the end of the week now, after, 5 low macro days, 5 low calorie days, I've been hitting like 189s and 190. So it's, down, about a pound or so. So that's good news. And then, this weekend, I'll probably go ahead and I think today will probably be another low calorie day. I think I feel okay to kind of, dig for another day. And then definitely tomorrow, I'll probably go ahead and take a refeed. And refeeds for me, anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 calories. The majority of that obviously is going to be from carbohydrate, but yeah, I just kind of base my refeeds on. I auto-regulate those as well. Like whether it's 1 refeed a week, 2 a week, maybe even 3 refeeds a week. It kind of just depends on where my overall fatigue levels are at, how my physique is looking, if it's looking really flat, or if it's full, and energy levels, where that's at. So like I said, right now I feel okay. I feel pretty good. Definitely feel more recovered than I did, let's say, yesterday and the day before from those harder training sessions. And I feel like I can kind of get after it a little bit more today and dig. Like I don't look overly flat or anything like that. So I'm good to kind of dig one more day, but for sure tomorrow I'll probably go ahead and take a refeed. And then Monday probably get right back in and do a little bit more grinding. And I'm pretty confident that next week, with obviously, more training sessions under my belt, digging on, lower calorie days, a little bit further, that next week my fatigue levels, in theory anyways, might be a little more amplified. So I might need to take, let's say, 2 refeeds next weekend, potentially a little bit larger refeeds. I'll kind of see how it goes when I get there. But again, just getting you guys in my head a little bit as far as how I kind of go about the way I handle myself, with my prep. And again, I definitely rely on a lot of auto-regulation. And again, that's because of the experience level. But yeah, like I said, if everything goes according to plan, we are 26 weeks out right now, today. from the California Muscle Mayhem. And right now I'm about 19 to 20 pounds over stage weight. So in theory anyways, 26 weeks to lose 19, 20 pounds, definitely doable. But we'll kind of see how things go, as we move along. I'm not let's say, a prisoner to that date. Of course, I would love to get on that stage, but I'm not a prisoner to it. So if things, down the road, if, let's just say the timeline isn't working out too well, then I have no issue at all, basically pushing, my contest back a little bit further, pushing that date further, and maybe hitting up a different show, because the end product is far more valuable and far more important to me than an actual date or an actual show. So I really, like I said, that's why I kind of titled this vlog, Chasing the Physique, because that's what it's all about for me, is just bettering myself day in and day out, and improving my physique and making it the best that it's capable of becoming. And to me, if I can do that, that is success. And yeah, so I'm gonna leave it there. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll definitely update you guys in the next week or two. Until then, keep training hard, and we'll talk soon.